What's going on, smart people? Today we're doing something fun again. It's not physics meme review, but we are going to be looking at something. What we're going to be doing is, well, we're going to be Googling something. Now, I was on Facebook recently and I came across a friend from high school who I haven't spoken to in years, who posted one of those metaphysics articles that just says, science proves something that's just really far out there. And that gave me the idea to make a video where I just Google quantum physics proves and click on whatever pops up. Now, as everyone knows, the internet never lies, so let's see what quantum physics proves. And depending on how long these articles are, we might just look at a couple of them, but let's get started. So we're going to Google quantum physics proves. Oh, and I checked out the section on free will, and there weren't any articles on Google that explicitly said, or had an article named like quantum physics proves free will. But there are a lot of them that say things like, it suggests. And really what they really just throw at your face is indeterminism in quantum mechanics. And then they leave it ambiguous at the end. So I think that would be kind of pointless to go over. So let's start with quantum physics proves consciousness. And quantum theory proves consciousness, proves... Oh, so this is a good one. Good lord. Oh, it might all be the same one. Interesting picture. What is quantum theory? According to whats.com, quantum theory is the theoretical basis of modern physics, blah blah blah. Do you think it has something to do with humans' death? Let's find out. Will we though? A book titled Biocentrism, How Life and Consciousness Are the Keys to Understanding Nature of the Universe, has started the internet because it contained a notion that life does not end when the body dies. Say that again, but slowly. Life does not end when the body dies. Okay, whatever. Moving on. The author of this publication, scientist Dr. Robert Lanza, that name sounds really familiar, who is third most important scientist alive. Who is this guy? That sounds really familiar. Oh, he's like the first one that pops up. Biocentrism. Let's look at... Oh, he has his own website. So he's a medical doctor, regenerative medicine. It probably does like stem cell stuff, I guess. Wait, why? Medical doctor. Does fantastic work apparently in stem cells and regenerative medicine. Awesome. Then talks about decoherence and quantum gravity. Let me tell you real quick why this kind of stuff always agitates me. I have a physics degree. Recently, actually. I have a physics degree. I've taken 2 semesters of quantum mechanics. I've taken a course in astrophysics. And that's not supposed to impress anybody. Right? Quantum gravity. Things like that. Things like string theory. The mathematics behind them are so far beyond what an undergrad is expected to be able to grapple with at the undergraduate level, to where it's not even touched on, okay? It's not like at some point in your undergraduate quantum mechanics you're going to be solving the infinite square well, and then your professor's like, okay, time for string theory. Let's talk about SU3 symmetry and the gluon field tensor. That's not a thing. I'm bringing this up because this guy apparently has collaborated with Skinner and Jonas Salk. Jonas Salk created, I was almost going to say he created polio. Cured polio. This guy's heavily rooted in biology and maybe chemistry. But no one who has a degree in bio or chemistry has to take a rigorous course in quantum mechanics. I understand that people who take chemistry have to take physical chemistry. I don't mean to say that that doesn't count, but it doesn't count. Okay, because if you're given things like how to solve the hydrogen atom, and my understanding is that in physical chemistry, you're more or less given the solution to the Schrodinger equation. You're given the expressions for the spherical harmonics and all that good stuff. You don't go through the motions of solving the problems. What I'm getting at is that I'm sort of approaching this with the idea that this guy knows less about quantum mechanics than I do, and I know not very little. I don't know nearly enough about it to start tackling quantum gravity. Okay, so someone who has on their personal website stuff doing to quantum gravity is really overselling themselves, in my opinion. You might say, "What, Andrew? You can't self-teach yourself the math or the physics?" I'm like, listen, I want my medical doctors to have medical degrees. I want my lawyers to have law degrees. If I want to take someone seriously as a physicist, I want to know that they took formal and rigorous courses in the physics classes that they talk about, especially when it's something as big as quantum gravity. That was a huge tangent. Let's move on. Okay, so we just... wow, that was a really big tangent. Moving on from the third most important scientist alive. Whatever. Probably an idiot. Just kidding. Beyond time and space, Lanza is an expert in regenerative medicine. Okay. He's famous for experiments on cloning endangered animal species. If that's true, that's amazing. Not long ago, the scientist became involved with physics, quantum mechanics, and astrophysics. Okay. This explosive mixture has given birth to the new theory of biocentrism, which the professor has been preaching ever since. Biocentrism teaches that life and consciousness are fundamental to the universe. I'm trying to understand, I want to approach this with, in a grounded way. I don't want to assume the guy's just full of shit, more or less, because he's clearly a smart person. But I'm trying to think of, if you develop a theory like that, you got to be like, all right, and then this is how we're going to test it. These are the observables. We got all our ducks in a line. I'm trying to think of what the proof is, or not the proof, what the way of testing this is. Maybe they'll start talking about it later. I don't know. And some of this is going to be skewed into sounding more idiosyncratic, just because I'm sure that it's written by someone outside of science. So you're taking a scientist's words who's already not a professional in whatever fields of quantum mechanics this deals with, and then translated by like a journalist. So I'm sure that's going to lose, a lot's going to be lost in translation. Points out the structure of the universe itself, and that the laws, forces, and constants of the universe appear to be fine-tuned for life, implying intelligence existed prior to matter. That's like the whole Watchmaker argument, where you find, a watch in the forest. How's that go? I don't know. Look up Richard Dawkins' The Watchmaker Argument. He really debunks that in a really nice way. Lanza says that we carry space and time around with us like turtles with shells, meaning that when the shell comes off, we still exist. Okay. Another thing is when you get into these pseudoscience articles, people really latch on to the analogies that are made, and you poke holes in the analogies, and you think that means you're poking holes in the physics. So no, really what you're doing is you're just finding holes in the analogy. You're just showing that it's not perfect, hence why it's an analogy and not the actual thing. Kind of like when people talk about putting a bowling ball on a fabric and saying, no, it's sort of like what space-time is like. And people are like, well, then why isn't the fabric 3 dimensions if we live in 3 dimensions? You're like, great, you just realized that this is an analogy. But anyways, Lanza also believes that multiple universes can exist simultaneously. Of course he does. In one universe, the body can be dead, and in another, it continues to exist, absorbing consciousness which migrated into the universe. Now, I don't want to come across as like just this boring skeptic that just doesn't have any imagination, really. What agitates me is when people believe in something for the sake of believing in it. Kind of turning that in a little bit, presenting that in a little bit different of a way, is to say, I don't really believe in anything. I'm convinced to different degrees of certainty that different phenomena exist and behave different ways based off of the evidence that's presented. But I'm not just going to believe in something. Sometimes I'll be convinced of something to such certainty to where I live my life as if it was true, or if it has been proven, if it could be proven, which is why I live my life as if apples will always fall from trees and not fall upwards, right? Because theories are meant to not necessarily be provable, but you should always be able to agree on something to where if that thing happened, it could be proven wrong. An apple falls up, theory of gravity's out the window. Something's wrong. But you'll never hear me really say I believe in anything. If you guys were wondering. Let's see. So in another universe, it continues to exist, absorbing consciousness which migrated into this universe. This means that a dead person, while traveling through the same tunnel, ends up not in hell or heaven, but in a similar world he or she once inhabited. But this time, alive. And so on, infinitely. It's almost like a cosmic Russian doll afterlife effect. It's almost like it doesn't happen. Number 2, multiple worlds. When I first got into physics, by the way, some of the things that got me into physics were these concepts. Things like quantum gravity, string theory, many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, black holes, dark matter. All of these huge things are the things that make you turn your head and look towards physics. And then, for some reason, you realize, or not for some reason, at one point or another, you realize how untestable some of those things are. And physics is concerned with what you can observe, or what you can make measurements on. Which is why I think things like string theory get such a bad rap. I'm not one to speak on the behalf of string theory. That shit is hard. But things like, at this point now, I'll see things about multiple worlds or quantum gravity and I'll sort of just roll my eyes a little bit. Very respectfully, though. I respectfully roll my eyes. RMRE. There are physicists and astrophysicists who tend to agree with the existence of parallel worlds and who suggest the possibility of multiple universes. It's so-called multiverse is a so-called scientific concept which they defend. They believe that no physical laws exist which could prohibit the existence of parallel worlds. That's just the whole you can't prove that it doesn't happen though. And I'm not going to spend any time explaining why that's not a valid thing to think. Or not I'm not going to spend time explaining why that's not something I take seriously. Anything that can be presented without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Then they talk about Hugh Everett. For those of you who don't know, Hugh Everett is the father of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. It's essentially an alternate way of looking at the collapse of the wave function. So you have like the standard convention, the Copenhagen interpretation, which just says that once you observe something, the wave function sort of collapses into a delta function, and that's where your particle is, or that's what its energy is, whatever you're observing. Then people like Hugh Everett came along and said, well, what if when that happens, another universe is created where the other thing happens, where the particle is over here, or over here instead? So, I mean, it is what it is. In some of these worlds, you must be present, reading this article. Okay. The triggering factor for these multiplying worlds is our actions, explained by Everett. If we make some choices, instantly one universe splits into two with different versions of outcomes. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I just said. The fact that our universe is not alone is supported by data received from the Planck Space Telescope. Really? Using the data, what is the data? Scientists have created the most accurate map. Yeah, that's just the cosmic microwave background. They also found that the universe has a lot of dark recesses represented by some holes and extensive gaps. Theoretical physicist with her colleagues argue the anomalies of the microwave exist due to the fact that our universe is influenced by other universes. Alright, time to Google this person again. Or not again, Google another person. Oh, this person is actually a cosmologist. Laura Merseni-Houghton. Let's take a look at her research real quick. So she's got to have like published papers. Sorry, I just want to see. Known for multiverse hypothesis, Hawking radiation theory. No, I don't. Pretty sure Hawking's known for that. Let's look at this person's research. Oh, she teaches at North Carolina. What does she... I hope you guys understand the reason for me doing this. It's just, I understand that verifying that someone has certain credentials before you sort of listen to what they have to say is an appeal to authority. That's sort of a logical fallacy. But there's something to be said about someone who has a formal education in the thing that they are talking about. I don't think that's crazy. ResearchGate, here we go. Constraints in vacuum energy, testing predictions of the quantum landscape, multiverse. Where is this? What? Cool. So at least we're coming across someone who seems to know what they're talking about. I don't know what journals these are being published in. Like what PhysRev journal this is in. That's, I mean, obviously certain journals are easier to get published in than other ones, but I'm not going to make assumptions on which ones those get published in. But the fact that this person, Laura Houghton, is publishing stuff relevant to what this article is talking about makes me more inclined to give it a chance. You know what I mean? A little sip for the working man. I'm assuming this explanation of hers saying that these holes in the microwave background being influenced by universes existing nearby, it sounds like that would be something to where someone was like, is that possible? And then she was like, I mean, I guess, maybe. And they're like, got it. Soundbite. But who knows? That could be what she thinks. Alright, number 3, soul. So there's an abundance of places. I feel like I'm spending a lot of time. 18 minutes, Jesus Christ. Maybe I'll just end it on this article. Maybe we could just make a few videos where we just dissect some of these kind of bizarre articles and talk about them. But let's keep going for now. There's an abundance of places or other universes where our soul could migrate after death, according to biocentrism. But does the soul exist? Is there any scientific theory of consciousness that could accommodate such a claim? According to Dr. Stuart Hameroff, let's take a look at who you are, Stuart. Anesthesiologist. when quantum information that inhabits the nervous system leaves the body and dissipates into the universe. Okay. I don't know, this article is just riddled with people who are speaking on the behalf of a field that's pretty far away from their specialty. I understand anesthesiology would have to do with consciousness, or I guess putting people unconscious, but then to leap into the realm of quantum information, that's just bold. Consciousness resides, according to Stewart and British physicist Roger Penrose, in the microtubules of the brain cells, which are the primary sites of quantum processing. I wasn't expecting to see Penrose. Okay. Upon death, this information is released into your body, from your body, meaning that your consciousness goes with it. Okay. They have argued that our experience of consciousness is the result of quantum gravity effects in these microtubules, a theory which they dubbed orchestrated objective reduction, OR. Okay. Alright. I've got to look into this. I've never heard of Penrose being the consciousness type. Let's do consciousness. Sir Penrose Institute for the Study of Consciousness. You don't say. "30 years ago." Did he not stick with it? The prevalent scientific view is that the human brain is a classical computer formed by the network of connections between our neurons. Penrose's view is that this model is insufficient to explain the working of the human mind and that new physics is needed to understand how consciousness arises. I think that's fair, to be honest. I think it would be naive to think that our understanding of consciousness as it is now is done. I think when you get to that small scale, the sub-neuron level, once you get to the subatomic level, of course, a classical picture is sort of going to, have to give way to quantum mechanics. So I think that that's totally reasonable. I'll have to look more into this, but so far that seems fine. I don't know exactly what orchestrated objective reduction is, but it sounds like he's just saying we don't completely know what consciousness is. Yeah. Consciousness, or at least proto-consciousness, is theorized by them to be the fundamental property of the universe, present even at the first moment of the universe during the Big Bang. Even at the first moment? Well, I don't know about that. In one such scheme, proto-consciousness experience is a basic property of physical reality accessible to a quantum process associated with brain activity. Our souls are in fact constructed from the very fabric of the universe. Okay. So I haven't read the bottom of this, but I guarantee you it's going to end very open-ended and almost end with a question. Maybe something like, so could quantum mechanics prove the reason consciousness and then it's going to end. It's not going to say that it definitely does, even though the title says that it definitely does, but it's supposed to get you to click on the article, and I guess it worked. Because my understanding is that these kinds of articles, they have ads on the inside. Okay, so when you click on the article, people pay to put their advertisements on the article once you click on it. So having a very nice clickbait title will get you in there. It doesn't even matter what's on the inside. It'll get you in there, it'll get you interacting with the ads, and then they get paid. Okay, so I'm not expecting them to say anything definitive at the end of this. Because at the end of the day, that's not their job. Their job is to get people to click. Where was I? Let's just skim through this. Can't be destroyed. Distributes and dissipates. Lanza would add here that not only does the universe exist, it exists perhaps in other universe. Oh, I think it's talking about consciousness, actually. If the patient is resuscitated, revived, this quantum information can go back into the microtubules, and the patient says, I had a near-death experience. Oh, God. He adds, if they're not revived and the patient dies, it's possible that this quantum information can exist outside the body, perhaps indefinitely, as the soul. But does it just surround the body? Does it surround the body or go outwards? And if it goes outwards, what brings it back? This account of quantum consciousness explains things like near-death experiences, astral projection, out-of-body experiences, and even reincarnation, without needing appeal to religious ideology. Well, no, you just created one. The idea of your consciousness potentially gets recycled back into a different body at the same point, and in the meantime, it exists outside of the body on some other level of reality, and possibly in another universe. But that's the end of this article. That went on a lot longer than I thought it would, so I'm not going to be doing any of the other ones in this video. But maybe in a future video I'll go over some of the more funny articles like this. I hope you guys enjoyed this and got to see sort of my thought process for determining whether or not an article is bullshit or not. A lot of what I did was just looking up who it was that said certain things. Are they credible? You know, what kind of research did they do? In a lot of cases it wasn't. And it seemed like in this article the people that were a little bit credible might have been taken out of context. So that's something to always keep in mind. But let me know in the comments section, do you think quantum theory proves consciousness moves to another universe after death? Why and why not? Let me know in the comments section. I'll see you guys there. And if you thought this video was a little helpful maybe with debunking articles like this, maybe leave it a share. If you do comment and you see someone else comment something that you disagree with, you don't have to respect their opinion, but you should be respectful. Alright, you don't need to be mean to people, is what I'm getting at. Because I know that this is kind of a controversial topic. But anyways, thanks for watching. See you guys later.